It was pretty special. You know, I've dreamed about this my whole life. You know, Notre Dame is my dream school. And it's a dream come true. It's almost overwhelming. It's pretty cool, though.
That was a young and clean-shaven Tony Springmann at the Notre Dame spring game in 2010. Only a junior in high school at the time, Springmann committing to Notre Dame that day. He, of course, the latest of the 3 Dwenger grads to make their way to South Bend that are playing in tonight's game. All 3, of course, coached in high school by Chris Svarczkopf. We sat down with Coach recently to talk about Tony, Tyler, and John. If there was ever a question about how Chris Svarczkopf feels about his former players, the answer hangs on the walls of his office. Each player he's ever coached that's gone on to play 4 years of college football has a spot for a snapshot. According to Coach, John Goodman was destined to be there.
We knew in grade school that there was going to be something special. His older brother, TJ, was a great player for us. And, you know, when John was part of that group down at St. Jude Grade School, and they won the city championship there. We, you know, had high hopes, and you know, John has always been a leader, and he has always stayed positive. He's always persevered, and the good things are starting to happen now. Right at the, you know, what a great time to be at your very best, and I think that's the thing I admire the most.
For Tyler Eifert, Svarczkopf says this touchdown at Muncie Central during Tyler's sophomore season opened his eyes. It took the Notre Dame coaching staff a little while longer.
I don't think a lot of people know or remember this. Tyler was not offered a scholarship by University of Notre Dame to be a tight end. At the end of his junior year, you know, we kind of asked him, you know, what do you think about Eifert? We think about Eifert, and he said, well, you know, Coach, he's good and everything, but we've got other tight ends. We're good there. And he went back up to camp and did another tryout, and they looked at him and offered him a scholarship as an athlete. So that's one thing that we tell our parents, we tell our kids all the time. When you think that that's a position where you're supposed to play, or that's a position where I'm supposed to get a scholarship, we always tell them about Tyler. Was not offered a scholarship as a tight end, and now he ends up being among the best in the country.
With Tony Springmann, it was his frame that helped him get a spot in this frame, something that was hard to miss early on.
In the 6th grade, seriously, we looked at this young man and thought, wow, he's a big guy. But not only that, but he played with great passion, intensity, loved the game. His older brother, Gus, was a great player for us, and Gus was 2 years older than Tony. So when Gus was an offensive left tackle and Tony was a defensive end, they would really get into it in practice. I mean, just, it was brutal. And we knew right then that he had what it took from a competitive standpoint.
Whether it's John Goodman, Tyler Eifert, or Tony Springmann, Coach Svarczkopf's office is filled with both pictures and praise.
One thing that's carried with them is that they didn't take plays off. They played every play from the snap until the whistle just as hard as they could. Guys like that could make you look pretty good.
Always humble coach. In 11 years leading the Dwenger program, Svarczkopf boasts a record of 116 and 31. Now, Coach Svarczkopf has certainly been a big influence in the lives of our local guys, and the same can now be said for Brian Kelly. News Channel 15's Joe Whalen has more now on the coaches who will take center stage in tonight's national championship game.
Hey, Glenn, Chris Svarczkopf has coached some pretty good linemen in his day, and Brian Kelly, he's of the mindset that tonight's game will be decided in the trenches, whereas Nick Saban sees a little bit of the NFL in the Irish offense.
I really think it's about who controls the line of scrimmage again. You know, people were talking about how do you bring down Lacey, how do you bring down those backs. You don't. If there's big holes, I don't know you guys, we ain't tackling them. We're not going to get them on the ground. So we got to make sure that we don't have big creases so we can get them moving east and west and get them on the ground. So I still think this game is going to be decided by what happens up front.
Notre Dame does a really good job of taking two players that they have, their tight end, number 80, and their running back, number 6, and utilizing the formations to create lots of issues for the defense, a little bit like the New England Patriots do with the tight ends that they have.
Nick Saban, of course, referring to Tyler Eifert and Theo Riddick there, but some pretty high praise for Eifert being compared to the Patriots all-pro tight end Rob Gronkowski. Glenn, we'll have to see if that holds up in tonight's game.
All right, thank you, Joe. You know, the NFL draft just a little while away for Tyler, projected as a first to maybe a second rounder. Could end up with the Bears, so maybe he'll stay up close to home. Hey, well, coming up, the Fort Wayne pipeline continues. One of the city's best ever is making a beeline to the Basilica. We're going to hear from Jalen Smith, the #1 recruit for the nation's #1 team. Smith committing to the Irish in June of 2012. But first, a blast from the past. Here's Tyler Eifert making his college decision in June of 2008.
Joined right now by Tyler Eifert. Tyler, some big news to tell us about.
Yep, today I committed to the University of Notre Dame.
And was this like a childhood dream of yours?
Not really. I mean, growing up, I was always a big Purdue fan. That's where my dad went to school. And, but growing up, liking football a lot, knowing that they have a good program and everything, they've started to grow on me.